All right, it is SNL. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. We are drafting the draft picks based on impact. This is going to be a fun exercise. We always talk about who can make an immediate impact. So we're going to draft here on SNL the rookies based on the impact that they will make sooner rather than later. It is SNL. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots here with you. And we will actually get to see these rookies for the first time next week. They will be in the building next week. At the end of the show, we'll talk about what you can see in a mini camp. A lot of beat writers and stuff kind of minimize what you can see at mini camp, rightfully so. I mean, you're not seeing a ton, but there are some things that you can take away just from seeing these guys in person the first time. And we will provide that to you next week. D'Amico Ryan's also going to speak, but we'll talk about that later on, as well as where moves can be made to add to the roster of the most impact. But let's just get right into this. The SNL impact draft of the draft picks. I'm going to start this off. I got the first pick.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I know where you're going with this. I mean, if you're doing impact, like I have a good sneaky suspicion, and I have crafted a draft plan for picking after you. So I know where you're going.
Okay, well, I am going wide receiver, and I am going wide receiver out of Iowa State, but I'm going Jalen Knoll ahead of Jaden Higgins. So my first pick will be Jalen Knoll, the wide receiver out of Iowa State. And let me just lay this out for you and why I'm picking him ahead of Higgins. And I like Higgins.
Hold on, let me scramble my draft board over here.
Well, I think Jalen Knoll possesses a trait that Higgins does not. He is by most accounts a pure slot guy. He's going to line up in other places, but he's a pure slot guy. And I think the time in which they picked him, it kind of shows you just how much they value him as a player, because they didn't draft for need. They drafted him. And typically when you do that, you're either drafting someone to make a long-term impact or a short-term impact. And I think he actually does both. And I also go back to the pre-draft process and the conversations we were having. And I actually put out a Jalen Knoll video on the locker room. Just posted that about an hour ago. Strong recommendation to check that out, because it's fun to kind of relive the process. So do me a favor, go back and check that out in the locker room. But we were talking about Nick Caley's offense. What is it going to be? In leading up to the process, we acknowledged that he comes from places where they use multiple slot receivers. So we've seen him do that before. Ask Nick Caserio about it. He said as much. The other factor that I think comes into play when you're talking about Knoll is one of the best ways to help a quarterback that might lack talent on the offensive line is getting rid of the ball quicker. And slot receivers often allow you to get rid of the ball quicker. Intermediate routes, intermediate passing options, they give you that opportunity. And I think Knoll is that guy. So I would say that in the short term, does this mean that he's better than Higgins? I think they're both really good players. They were top 5 on Brugler's list, and a lot of people had Knoll and Higgins in the top 7. But I think as far as immediate impact and providing a service and countering other needs, I think Jalen Knoll, I feel comfortable taking him with my first selection in the impact draft of the draft picks.
Here is one thing that I believe Jalen Knoll does possess that none of the other wide receivers possess that could help his usefulness in the immediacy for the Texans is based on pure speed. I feel like he has the ability to get deeper, faster, and get more open than anybody else. If Nico's getting open deep, it's usually because Nico ran a really good route and beat a guy. But I'm talking about with just using his speed, take the top off, make the safeties account for you. Jalen Knoll possesses that to a greater degree than any of the other wide receivers on this team. So I really do like that for him.
And he's not your typical, slow slot receiver. He didn't run a 4.3. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with Jalen Knoll. So he's my first pick, and I feel comfortable making that a selection and calling his name first.
Well, I'm copycatting, but I'm going a little different. I'm going Iowa State wide receiver, and I didn't think I'd get him if you were picking first, but Jaden Higgins. And I believe Higgins has a day one role that should get him on the field a good amount of time. Now, is he going to always get the ball just because he's out there on the field? No, because Nico's going to get open. Obviously, I believe that Christian Kirk could have a really solid season for this team, but he's going to get some opportunities early on, I would think, in 3 wide receiver packages. Put him on the outside. You could do some funky mixing and matching if you're the Texans and you want to drop Higgins down into the slot. You want to put him over on the same side as Nico Collins and create really a physical advantage from the wide receivers over there. So I really like the ability to put Higgins on the field right away for this team, have him be a guy outside. And then you want impact. You want to change some things for the Houston Texans. This guy constantly talks about, I want to be a threat in the red zone. I want to be a weapon in the red zone. I know that it's a different style of football in the red zone. I know what it takes to go out there and be a factor. The Texans were awful in the red zone last year. New offense, new offensive line. That should help. But, man, they didn't have guys that could get open consistently in the red zone. If Higgins go out there, win some big catches in the red zone, come down with some touchdowns, score some points for this team in the red zone, not just kicking it, but actually putting 2 feet in the end zone, that's a big impact for this team. So Iowa State wide receivers go 1 and 2 here in the draft of the draft picks.
Imus Pandeline says that butt will carry him along. Now, I don't know if she's talking about Knoll or if she's talking about Higgins, but whoa, there's some analysis you won't get anywhere else. The chat has some interesting stuff. Clarify the ass, please, Imus Pandeline. Whose butt are you talking about? Are you talking about Knowles or are you talking about Higgins? That is a question that I have for you. Let's clarify the ass, please.
That is one thing that I didn't see a lot of in draft analysis season. I didn't see a lot of hip or junk in the trunk conversation like you see from some draft analysts. I've seen less of that. Or maybe
that's usually an offensive line breakdown, but I would love to see the clarity on which one we are talking about. My next guy, offensive lineman Ariante Ursary. Now, Cody questioned initially the impact that he could have early in the season. I see you put guard ? There. I think regardless of what he plays, I think that there is a chance that this guy is starting games for the Texans, whether it be at tackle or guard. I think this guy, the more that you hear from like the McShays of the world and stuff, the more that you like. And quite frankly, there's not really a lot in front of him that you feel 100% solid about before we see what goes on in camp. So there's a lot of opportunity for him on the offensive line, whether it be at tackle or at guard. So this was an easy pick for me with the wide receivers off the board. I'm going to go with Ariante Ursary to make a quick impact.
I would say this: once he gets on the field, there should be some level of impact that is greater than almost all the players. I just don't know when he's going to get on the field. That would have been my question, but that's still my question. And hopefully we get some clarity here in the coming weeks on if that guard ? Does get answered. Because if he plays guard right away and then, has to play tackle because Cam Robinson couldn't get it done or Blake Fisher couldn't get it done or one of those guys is hurt, then obviously the impact is huge and immediate. Heck, if he beats one of these guys out, the impact's going to be huge and immediate as well. So I get it. I certainly understand you taking Ursary.
Speaking of clarity, so she was talking about Knowles' butt. She says, check his backside. He's a big guy. I'll take your word for it. And I will assume that it's a good scouting report.
I'm not going to be the butt inspector guy. Okay.
Stoots has got you. He got you covered. Video dropping here at 6:00 after SNL.
This wide receiver's ass is the key to the season.
All right. I'm intrigued by this next pick. So the top 3 picks are off the board, 3 picks in. Who are you picking next?
I'm picking Woody Marks. I'm going to add him to Jaden Higgins. And I do believe they're going to put Woody Marks on the field. I do believe they're going to give him offensive-centric plays that went to Daria Gumbawale last year and just weren't useful. And I have faith that Woody Marks can get to the level that they will trust him on third downs and certainly maybe even right away trust him on passing downs and then get him the football and hopefully let him go out there and make an impact for this team. I just don't believe in any of the wide or running back talent behind Joe Mixon. And if Marks can come out here, he has a clear skill that is a good skill right away. That like, what is Damian Pierce's good skill? I don't know. What is Daria Gumbawale's good skill? He's great on special teams. Okay, well, that doesn't help you make as much of an impact as, I don't know, moving the rock on offense. I'm going Woody Marks. I feel pretty good about this, and I don't know that he's going to have like some sort of massive impact, but is Woody Marks going to score important points for this team? Is Woody Marks going to move the chains for this team by catching the football? I do believe he will in 2025.
All right, my next pick's going to be Jalen Reed. I'm taking Jalen Reed, and here's the reason. I think he can do a lot of things that Petrie does in the nickel. I also have no doubt that he is capable of contributing on special teams. And look, we saw Petrie last year. Petrie, he only lasted 10 games in that role. It's a very, very demanding role physically, and there could be opportunities, much like there was last year at linebacker and at that position, for someone to step in. Now, maybe that's Jimmy Ward because Jimmy Ward's on the team, and maybe he's a super sub type of safety on this squad. We don't quite know how he fits in. But I think Jalen Reed, this is kind of a luxury pick. You know, you make a guy the highest paid nickel corner who's a safety / linebacker, and then you draft someone who plays that exact role. And I think it could have been the beginning of perhaps a new era of DeMeco Ryans defense where that position is extremely valued and it's almost treated as if it's like a normal spot. It's no longer a spot of adjustment or luxury. It's now a spot that they really look to when it comes to the way that they want to play defense. So I think Jalen Reed could impact this squad, and I think he's ready to do so. I think that the reason why guys like him kind of fall in the draft is because a lot of teams look at that as just like limitations, and they look at that as a spot where, we don't know what we can do with this guy. The Texans, when they were without that role, we saw what happened against Kansas City. Azeez Al-Shire was kind of lost. He was lost in coverage. I think they're adding depth to that spot, and I could see Reed contributing a little bit and being called upon maybe a little more than we anticipate.
For whatever it's worth as well, I feel like Jalen Reed is a day one Frank Ross special teams favorite. Like he could go out there and just be a heat-seeking missile on some special teams. That's also like if they use him in the return game, it's also a small boost for you with Jalen Noel as well, if he factors into the return game as well.
And we'll see how they use him. We'll see. The thing with me is I don't know how they're going to use Jalen Smith either, but I know what Jalen Reed can do and what his skill set is. So I think there's multiple opportunities and multiple paths for Jalen Reed getting on the football field and getting on the team, which is why I picked him over Smith.
Well, I'm picking Smith, and there's multiple backup opportunities for Jalen Smith. He could be the third cornerback on this team, and he could be the backup nickelback on this team. It feels like Jalen Smith and Jalen Reed might be battling each other for those backup nickelback reps. And if Smith is indeed a coverage slot cornerback option for this team on clear coverage downs where they take Petrie off the field because he doesn't have the coverage ability that you would typically want out of that position, then we could see Smith early on in the season in clear passing downs, and they let him go out there and they cover whoever's in the slot for the opposing team. And if not, hey, third cornerback, we saw it get on the field more than we wanted last year when Kavontae Turpin was leaving Jeff Okudah in the dust. We saw it get on the field in Green Bay when Jordan Love targeted D'Angelo Ross and had a perfect passer rating when he targeted D'Angelo Ross in Green Bay. I have to hope if Jalen Smith gets on the field as the third corner for this team, he could do a little bit better than both of those guys. And I would have taken Reed if he was here. I like Reed a little bit more than I like Smith. I would have just swapped him when they drafted him, and I would have felt better overall about the value of the picks. But I had Smith to my crew, and now it's back to you.
And Cebu has, this is good analysis, and I think it kind of summarizes what you just said and what I just said. Going back to my third pick in this draft, he says he's very curious to see how Petrie, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Ward, and Reed get used, and I am too. And Smith, throw Smith in the mix. Like, we don't know what this game of this puzzle is going to look like. So your guess is as good as mine as to what they're going to do, what they're going to try to do, how it's going to look. And maybe they don't know either until they really see it. But they think these guys can be useful football players in some way, shape, or form. And quite frankly, it's a pretty big ass puzzle that they have and a lot of opportunities right now with a lot of pieces. So that's why I went with Reed. But the Smith thing, it's a mystery that none of us really know at this point.
If Jimmy Ward stays on this team, I don't anticipate that he will, but let's look ahead and pretend he makes the 53 and he decides to
take that hit, or are they going to cut him? Like, that's,
I mean, they owe the money anyway. If he's down to be on the squad, then let him be on the squad. But if Ward sticks around and you factor in Reed and Smith, and then you've got the starters that you have, and if Darby is a useful, let's say Ronald Darby's cornerback 3, you start to put together a pretty deep secondary when they've been pretty thin at secondary the past couple of seasons. You think about some of the guys that had to play in key moments down the stretch in 2023, how difficult it was to replace Petrie and Ward when they were out in 2024. All of a sudden, they have a pretty deep secondary with Lassiter and Stingley at the corner spots, CJ Gardner-Johnson and Bullock as starting safeties. And then it's like, okay, Darby, Smith, Reed, Ward, and you can mix and match these positions where these guys play. Like it gets to be a pretty deep secondary room that could be a nice extra to have with this roster.
Yeah, and here's the thing: when we start talking about Jimmy Ward, I think the conversation and the reaction is kind of dated. I don't think it's progressed as much as it possibly should, because what's done is done. And they gave him the extension. We all thought it was weird the moment they gave him the extension, and then he got hurt again, and it seems even weirder. But it seems like the conversation hasn't progressed with the reality of what they did with Jimmy Ward. So at this point, like, the idea of Jimmy Ward as a super sub, I would rather have that, a guy who's played corner, safety, nickel, that you're not asking to play 90% of the snaps, who's played pretty productive for the Texans. I know there's been some lows, but there's also been some pretty damn big highs. As soon as Jalen Petrie left the field, Jimmy Ward had the pick 6, and he was really good in that nickel spot. And he's had some good stretches at safety as well. Obviously has gotten banged up, but at this point, it's almost like if you pay for a trip and you've already lost your deposit, a lot of times you just have to go on the trip anyways. Mm-hmm. You don't just say, well, the trip's useless. They've already spent the money. Do either one of us think that it was wise money spent? No. But you could do a lot worse than having a super sub in the secondary than Jimmy Ward and having him on this football team. So I'm all in favor of it if he's okay with it and if they're okay with it. What's done is done. We get it. It didn't make sense. We said it then. We'll say it now. But the money has been spent. The deposit has been lost. So at this point, you would rather have him on the team than not have him on the team.
And your savings on a release is $1 million. Like it's not like you need to recoup that and you need that $1 million for the salary cap. Like, if Jimmy Ward is on board with being super sub Jimmy Ward, keep Jimmy Ward, because releasing him, you're keeping a player that's not as proven, and you're not saving a whole bunch of money.
Yeah. So make do with what you got. The money has been spent. We get the conversation, but let's move the conversation here. Would you rather have Jimmy Ward that you've already paid for, or is $1 million like that big of a deal, especially when depth is such an important thing, and he is about as versatile and as much really success a DB has had playing all over the place over like a 10-year time period as you could possibly have. So maybe he accepts that role. He's good in the locker room. Like, they respect him. I mean, he was working out last year in the facility the whole time. He was willing to go play nickel after D'Amico basically promised him that he wouldn't play nickel, and that's where he is. So Jimmy Ward was very important for D'Amico Ryans, where D'Amico Ryans was one of the first calls he made when he became the coach of the Texans, and he's been here a couple of years. Should that ship have sailed? Yes, but they've already paid for it. So that's one way to look at it. Resetting the draft here on SNL. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Happy Friday to everyone. So my first pick was Noel. My second pick was Ursery. My third pick was Jalen Reed. Stoots went with Higgins, and then he went with Marks and Smith. I am going to
round it out. I think there's really only 2 options here, but you've shocked me already twice in this draft.
I'm going to go with Luke Lachey, and this is my case for Luke Lachey. There is a decent chance that we don't hear much from Luke Lachey during the season. But here's my thing with Luke Lachey. Iowa plays a style of football that is very smash mouth, and their tight ends are asked to block quite often. It is a smash mouth type of football that Iowa plays. Texans tight ends, they got problems blocking, and you don't want Dalton Schultz blocking. Brevin Jordan's not the best blocker, and we'll see what Cade Stover looks like and how he does. We all anticipate that he's going to block better. I think there could be some underrated ability in the receiving game. And I also think there's just a slight chance that this guy goes in there and he is head and shoulders above all the other tight ends at blocking. I think at the worst at this point, I'm thinking he might be your second best blocking tight end. So when you factor that in, when you factor in that Nick Caley likes tight ends, there's small chance I like it more than Hamilton, although I'm intrigued by what D'Amico can do to develop Hamilton. But I think there's a chance for Lachey because he possesses a skill and a talent that has been kind of scarce at the tight end position for the Houston Texans. And I think there's a chance that gets a little bit of attention from this coaching staff.
Hey, the easier it is to answer the question of what can you do for me on game day, the easier it is to see a player making an impact. And what can Luke Lachey do for you on game day? Block. What can't some of the guys they have at tight end do right away? Block. There you go. It's pretty easy to see how he could get on the field pretty early and get on the field, and he'll be one of the unsung heroes if he's making an impact, but it'll be an impact that we'll notice because tight ends blocking is going to be something that we're all going to be looking for this year because it was pathetic last year.
And he wants all the smoke, man. Like he wants all the smoke. I think there's probably a little bit of meat left on the bone when it comes to receiving. I don't think he's like a total stiff, but I'm intrigued to see what Lachey looks like in camp. And he plays a style that at his position that they desperately need.
I mean, I think you know where I'm going with this last pick. It's got to be the quarterback. I'm just kidding. I'm not taking Graham Mertz. Keontae Hamilton, defensive tackle out of Rutgers. It's a little bit of an uphill battle for him to make the roster. But if he does, perhaps he's going to be able to go in there and be a part of that rotation that they have at defensive tackle. The Texans weren't afraid to grab a guy like Tommy Togiai off the street last year and start giving him opportunities pretty quick. It would stand to reason that if Hamilton earns his way onto the roster, he could find himself with some opportunities. Again, I really like the fact that broad jump and his bench press would have been tied for the tops amongst defensive tackles at the combine.
29, right?
29. And his broad jump would have been a top 10 broad jump amongst the defensive tackles. Now, obviously, he didn't go to the combine. He just did that at his pro day. The stopwatch can lie. The bench press doesn't lie, though. So unlikely, probably the least likely of the 8 guys we've talked about here to make an impact. But the defensive tackle room, the fact that they rotate guys, the injury histories and the missing time history that Mario Edwards has, that Sheldon Rankins has, maybe Hamilton gets an opportunity that we can't foresee right now due to injury. So Hamilton's my final pick here.
Well, and I also think that there's big opportunity for the young man. I mean, that the D-line room is not overly impressive. Like, it's not like he's an edge guy.
Right.
And he's trying to hurdle all these, like the elite duo of Anderson and Hunter, and then all the I guess you could say it's elite depth too behind them. The D-line, like if we're nitpicking the defense, the D-line is the first thing that comes up. So he has an opportunity. Maybe he's not ready, but I could very easily see a scenario where, I mean, if this time next year, we're talking about him being a rotational guy, like stranger things have happened, and he has everything that you would want in a developmental guy. And quite frankly, we're 8 picks into this thing. And normally, like with your 8th pick, you're kind of, well, maybe, but I mean, there's decent reason for optimism when it comes to him. Now, significant impact, but yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch these guys in the preseason. So, final pick of this, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say this, Cody. I really value what you do. I appreciate you for riding along with me and the people. So, as a gift from me to you, I am going to give you my final pick, and I'm going to let you have Graham Mertz on your team. So he is on your roster. Graham Mertz. I got skipped. I didn't say the pick, and Cody skipped me and got Graham Mertz. So congratulations on Graham Mertz. I won't waste too much time on that.
Just one more thing about the about Hamilton, a defensive tackle. A year from now, he's one of only 2 defensive tackles under contract, by the way. Like, it's only him and Mario Edwards under contract for next year and beyond. So if he can make his way on, keep his roster spot this year, and then fight his way into the rotation at some point, then he's got a clear path to being a guy that they could rely on in 2026 if he plays well. So
there you go. There you go. Yeah, it's a decent draft. Like, when you lay it out like that, it looks pretty good. So there's my squad. I got Knoll with the first overall pick, Ursary, Reed, Lachey. There's reason to think that they could make impacts this year. There's a strong case for each, different reasons why. And then Stoots has the top pick in the draft, number 2. You can always be happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that they traded up for at a position of need, that they've praised for something that they need. And then another guy that they traded up for at a position of need, and Hamilton, who developmental guy, but in an area where there's not much depth. So
yep.
Whose team do you think is better? Which team would you have based on impact? Let us know on the SNL rookie impact draft of the draft picks.
If I would say this, if like they had a guard draft pick, I probably would have picked them over Marks, just because I could see a path where a guard gets an opportunity to start, and that's more impactful than a third down running back. So if they drafted a guard, I might have picked a guard over Woody Marks. And I don't know, you probably wouldn't have picked the guard over the tackle, but if I knew they had a guard draft pick, I probably would have grabbed that guy over the third down running back, just to kind of, we lamented that we don't feel like they have enough on the inside. I certainly don't feel like they do, and maybe they prove me wrong here.
So I want to talk about the grind of Nick Caley, because I got to think that Nick Caley now, his grind is kind of intensified, or at least his vision is kind of intensified, because now that he has players and he can kind of figure out what the final-ish product will be heading into camp, I think now is like really where Nick Caley gets more of a vision of what he wanted to do on offense. And I think it's still mysterious because he's never done it. We don't know. There's probably going to be some tweaks. Will he have the ability to adjust, unlike Bobby Slowick? But now that you have a couple of receivers, your offensive lineman, you have your young guy, I do think like in the last week or so, the grind of Nick Caley and trying to lay out the vision of what he's going to do on offense, it's definitely increased, and the vision is at least a little bit more clear with the obvious uncertainty that we still have when it comes to Nick Caley's offense and the grind that he's going on. So I do bet that he's been, I don't know if excited is the word, but I mean, there's probably it's probably a little bit easier at this point for him.
Well, and this is, from here through the first 3-4 weeks of training camp, this is where you really find out what type of offensive coordinator he's going to be. How good of a teacher is he? Because, yeah, there's going to be some familiar stuff, but he's still got to put it in his way, whatever language changes there is in the offense. And just like the install with the rookies, the new guys, that's one thing. Like, they knew things were changing for them. Christian Kirk knew this is going to be a different offense. Like CJ Stroud, how easy is it? How difficult is it for him to pick up what Nick Caley wants him to do? The holdovers on offense, picking things up like that. What they've can instill and install with the offensive line to change the blocking scheme. That's one of the big things we believe they're betting on, is that just the actual scheme of how they set blocking up. How well can they coach that, teach that, when these guys, are just barely getting the first couple pages of the playbook and just kind of thumbing through it. There's no, and you gotta teach basic math before you teach an algebra. So it's not like they're going to have all the answers and have it all figured out here by mid-May, but they're getting their books and they're figuring out exactly what they're going to start working on and what it's going to look like. So how good of a teacher he is will be an intriguing aspect of his offensive coordinator candidacy.
And the rookies will be in the building next week. We'll be on the scene. We'll be giving reviews of our biggest takeaways. Now, some would say, well, how can you give takeaways? And we'll tell you in a sec about what you can learn just by seeing the rookies in front of you, even if they're just kind of jogging around, not doing a lot. So we'll do that in a sec. But where can impact moves be made before the season? We've broken down both sides of the ball this week, and there's opportunity in some areas more than others to make impactful moves. We've seen them do it before, where they bring in guys before camp and they end up making the roster. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for them to make impact moves? Offensive line, you're kind of in no man's land at this point. Like maybe you can bring in some more projects, but I think they just kind of fit into the just a guy territory that they have a lot of bulk of on offensive line. Are there any areas, though, that you look at and say, damn, they could really make a move that would impact, maybe not like starter impact, but like Derek Barnett type of impact that we've seen where they brought guys on? That was obviously a little bit later in the season.
I would say and we wouldn't know it in the moment necessarily, but if they were able to get a George Fant equivalent for this offensive line on the inside, where, George Fant was signed right before camp got going, and George Fant ended up having to be a starter for this team and played pretty good football for it in 2023. If they found a George Fant-esque guard, so like a name that you'd heard, like a name you were like,
what if they already found him? What if it's one of the guys that they brought in? What if they've already found that George Fant guy?
Well, I still think they can find another guy.
Oh.
I don't. For the record, I don't believe they have, because I believe Laken Tomlinson's going to be the left guard, and I don't know who the right guard is. Like they've got options, but if you told me they signed Brandon Sheriff, I recognize the name. I've seen him play football. Like I'd rather him play right guard than the guys they have on the roster. So, a George Fant-esque guard. And then outside of that, I mean, I was kind of perusing and just taking a look at defensive tackles just in case. I don't really see anybody. So they might be squared away. And then the other one would be if they found a clear competitor for RB2 for Dameon Pierce. So J.K. Dobbins, someone like that at running back.
I'm sorry. Every time you say I recognize the name, I kind of laugh. It's just old habits die hard.
What did I do there?
Remember back in the day when you were at the Final Four and you told 5 different guys that they were the best broadcaster in NCAA history, and you go, you recognize the name.
No.
All 5 guys that they were the best You recognize the name. For all money, the best broadcaster of all time.
You're combining 2 stories. For my money, the best college basketball broadcaster was definitely me at the Final Four. I said that to all 5 guys we talked to. Gottlieb, we had Clark Kellogg on. You recognize the name was the women's soccer player at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't really know how to introduce her, and I was like,
you were like, you recognize the name, and it was like some women's soccer player. Now, in fairness, you kind of got the guess thrown at you.
Yep.
So you were trying to act like they recognized the name, but they did not. But yeah,
she had melted Cold Stone Creamery pints with her.
But I do recognize that name.
I just want Brandon Sheriff on the team just so I could ask him and Aziz Al-Shire if they're cool.
By the way, speaking of that,
they were ready to roll in Jacksonville last year.
You know something interesting about Jalen Reed? Do you know this? Has this been brought up yet?
Probably not.
He can be an expert on the biggest debate in town the last 3 years, which has had just a roller coaster of opinions. Like he is an expert or on the edge of becoming an expert in that debate. You know what it is? Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner. He was on Sauce Gardner's high school team, and he was a freshman when Sauce was a senior. They started. So he started his freshman year with Sauce in Detroit, and he actually credits Sauce Gardner for helping him along the way. He's one of his OGs. He's one of his guys, and that's one of his favorite guys. And now he's playing with Derek Stingley. So this debate that we've had where first it was Sauce, then it was Stingley. Now it seems like it's kind of Stingley. He might be the ultimate expert on it, and I think the only guy that's played with both of them.
Damn, he started as a freshman opposite senior Sauce Gardner.
Yes,
jeez, Jalen
in
Reed.
Detroit. Yeah,
I mean, you don't end up at Penn State by accident.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah. There's there's got to be somebody that's played with both of them, right?
Well, when you think about LSU and then someone on LSU, someone on Derek Stingley's LSU team had to have gone to the Jets.
But a DB, somebody who's, gonna line up behind Stingley as lined up opposite Sauce.
Well, you think about it too. You think about it. He's in the, like, if we do rookie seasons by high school classifications, so he was a freshman when Sauce was a senior, and now Derek Stingley's in year 4 and he's a freshman. So it's actually like directly proportional to how Sauce was a senior and he was a freshman, and now Stingley, if we're doing classifications and counting each year, is it Stingley's a senior and he's a freshman. So it's like the exact same thing on different levels.
This is I'm trying to think like what day of training camp will get Jalen Reed. This is like day 14 of training camp.
This is never. This is a go in the locker room and ask him what's up. I already have like I'll be like, dude, I'm the one that asked you that thing at the combine that you brought up about the Texans. So that's kind of like the end.
You got your end.
Yeah, just figure out what's going on with him. But he's definitely the kind of guy that they're going to like. But that's interesting that he has that insight and that foresight, and it's so proportionally similar to what it was in high school and what it is now.
Put a pin in it. It might be September, October before you get the answer, but that's a question worth asking.
Yep, I think it's cool, and I'm sure he'll have some pretty interesting opinions about it. I enjoy hearing the dude talk. He's a very passionate young man. I'm rooting for him. What can you learn from a mini camp? There's only so much you can learn from a mini camp. But I just think just seeing what the guys look like is step number one, because there's a lot of times where guys come into the league and their body doesn't necessarily look ready to compete in the NFL. And you almost look at it as like, what's he going to look like next year? I think Cade Stover was a little bit skinnier than they probably would have liked last year. And I think that's going to change. But I think that's one of the things is just, do they immediately look like guys that belong on the NFL field? Not the end all be all. How do they move around? Just that type of basic stuff. But there's not really like a massive thing. Like, you're not crowning the rookie of the year in minicamp, but I do think there are some good observations.
Well, I remember last year rookie minicamp, I was like, my God, I didn't know Gerard Jordan was that small, because he was standing next to British Brooks, and British Brooks looked like the Hulk standing next to Gerard Jordan. I was like, they don't even play the same position. Like, turns out they ended up not playing the same position because they moved British Brooks to essentially fullback / tight end. They do have, and I don't know if they
kind of saw Kenyon Green, and it was kind of like, he might need some work.
They do have a unique opportunity this year that doesn't always present itself. You drafted 2 wide receivers. You drafted 2 defensive backs. You're going to have a quarterback there. It's not going to be Mertz, I don't think, because I don't think his knee is ready. But they'll have some sort of, QB you've never heard of go out there and throw. You could do some one-on-ones if you really wanted to. Just kind of stoke the competitive juices early on. If you wanted to, you certainly could.
Yeah, you certainly could. There's no doubt about it.
Lachey and Ursary, to me, are the 2 rookie minicamp body guys. Like, what do they look like? Does Ursary look like a mountain? Like, feels like he is, because like 6'6", over 330 pounds. Like, he should strike a clear like vision when you see him. Like, oh man, that guy's huge. Like, I could see it. And then they'll do a lot of drills with those guys. Like, how well do they move around? Like, Stover didn't really look fluid last year at some of the tight end stuff. Will Lachey look a little fluid in some of the tight end stuff?
On the super chats,
You ain't never
Swarm.
Little Friday Soup, HDAV Traveler, a.k.a. Jack. Afternoon, everyone. Shout out to you. A-Town Jack is what we'll call him. Birdie Boy says, do you guys see the Aaron Wilson phone call with the Minnesota coach where he said he coached a few places with Kaylee and said Ursary could play guard. I did not catch that phone call. I did hear Ursary say he'd be up for whatever. But no, I did not see the Aaron Wilson or hear the Aaron Wilson phone call.
Was the Minnesota offensive line coach going to talk bad about him?
No idea. I don't know who the Minnesota coach is, but yeah, he said he could play guard. So keep an eye on that. That would just make Cody really, really excited because Cody wants.
It transforms how I would think about Ursary because I don't see a role for him initially here in.
That's a big ass guard.
Well, Nick Caley sat there and had big guards on the offense over there in LA. I mean, was Shaq small? Was Shaq Mason small in New England?
Nah, he's not that massive though.
No, he's not that big.
Is Shaq Mason going to get signed, or has he gotten signed yet?
You think he wants to come in for early work?
No, he definitely doesn't want a training camp. I can promise you that.
Yeah. That's a. Oh, hey, there's Shaq.
Oh, hey, Shaq Mason. Okay.
Here's a funny. So I guess the Minnesota O-line coach's name is Brian Callahan, which is the same name as the Titans. Head coach,
whose dad is Bill Callahan, who's one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time. One of them, not we know who the is, but one of the greater most respected offensive line coaches of all time.
Hold on now. I'm doing a little. If your mom tells you she loves you, fact check her.
Okay.
I'm trying to see when Mr. Callahan and Nick Caley actually cross paths. Okay, Akron.
Okay.
For 2 seasons in 06 and 07.
Okay.
Caley was a graduate assistant at Akron, and Callahan was the offensive line coach and run game coordinator.
Oh, okay.
Caley would have been 24.
What are you doing right now?
I just wanted to fact check it,
What are you doing right now?
I just wanted to see, if he was telling the truth. If he'd lie about knowing Nick Caley, he could lie about the guy playing guard.
They said they're open for everything, man. Nick Caserio said he's open for everything. Nick Caserio will be on the. Does Nick Caserio golf? I know they have the golf outing where D'Amico and Cal and Hannah talk.
So Caserio's talked about this. It's literally the only time of the year he plays golf is the team's golf outing.
Okay. But I would imagine if Nick Caserio put his mind to it, he would be a pretty good golfer.
Or maybe that's what D'Amico said. I think that's actually the only time D'Amico golfs is the golf outing with the team.
Okay. Good for him. Does Cal golf?
He's got to, right?
I think he hangs out at River Oaks a little bit. I don't know if there's much golfing going on. I know he hangs out. I don't know if he golfs or not.
I mean, I could see where he golfs, but not like he's not like a hardcore, like, got all the gear and the equipment, takes it super serious. I could see where he goes and
he's got the gear and equipment.
No, I know he's got the gear and equipment.
Yeah. He's got the gear and equipment.
You misunderstand me. Like there are some guys that are just like, they're getting the little.
Yeah, I gotcha.
The little toothpick and getting the dirt out of their wedge after every time they swing it.
It's called a tee.
Cal's got the
it's called a tee, Cody.
Cal's got nice stuff. I'm just not thinking it matters that much to him.
Cody thinks you're a golf guy if you use a tee to get the dirt out of your. You said the little toothpick thing. It's literally a tee.
No, they make like specific tools that you hang on the edge of your golf bag.
Oh, you're talking about the cleaners and stuff?
Yeah.
I used to have to clean clubs, man. It was a great job. That was when I was golfing. Nice little gig.
I feel like you could have been a good golfer. You could have generated some good power with.
No, I could, but I didn't like golf.
Yeah.
It's boring. It's a waste of time, and I just don't like it. I can respect it. The only time I like to play is when I would have the first tee time, and I could get it over with in like an hour 40. And that was literally my time. I would just hack it. I would have the first one. We're just hacking, boom. Finished in about hour and a half, hour 40. 7 o'clock tee time, boom, bye-bye. No one in front of me, no one behind me. Maybe a 6-pack at 7 a.m., never hurt anyone. And let's go. Bye-bye.
I like the golf-ish games. Like I like a Top Golf or whatever. Yeah. And then I like mini putt.
I love putt-putt.
but I don't like actually golf.
I love putt.
I played at that putt at the Super Bowl in Minnesota. They had in the Mall of America.
Oh yeah, drunk putt.
Have you seen the Tiger Woods putt place that's got like an actual?
Yeah, I've seen it. It looks good. It looks very difficult.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't like that. Give me the clown mouth. I want to try to hit try to hit it into the clown.
Yeah, I need a snow cone stand attached. I need all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's figure that out. Yeah, pop stroke with Tiger. Yeah, very interesting. Probably couldn't break 80 on that if I'm being honest with myself.
Colton, don't shake it. Don't shank it. He's like,
I'm literally golfing listening to this today. Well, good, man. Good luck to you. Colton is probably like a scratch golfer, I would say.
Don't overthink your swing. Don't think about slicing it. Just go up there and just take
a rip. Go let it rip, man.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. Just let it rip. Just have a good time. Don't creep out the cart girls. That's really like always the thing. It's just like, come on, man. Like just give her the tip, move on. Like don't act like sometimes that just have some instincts as to whether or not she wants to talk to you and whether or not she's just being nice. That's one of the biggest things on the golf course. Like let the cart girl do her thing and quit being creepy. It drives me nuts. It's actually one of my pet peeves. It's just like when you go to like Hooters or Twin Peaks or whatever. Man, that's a throwback, Hooters. But like just be professional. Just be professional.
Yeah.
Rich Boy Jay says thoughts on GTA 6 news that dropped today.
They postponed the game again.
Dude, they've been postponing this game forever. This is almost like Dr. Dre coming out with another Chronic, and here we are 15, 20 years later, and it hasn't happened. I don't know what they're waiting for, but this is the most hyped up, delayed game ever.
At this point, the ability to pay off on the hype is pretty minimal, isn't it?
No, they've increased it. I feel like they just could drop it and it's there. So I don't know what they're doing. Maybe there's like some sort of perfection, like it has to be perfect or whatever, but I don't know. What are some things like Texans wise that they insisted on that never uniforms, like new uniforms? It seemed like that was talked about forever. Yeah. And God, they overhyped that. My gosh. That's what they come on. Don't act like I'm lying here. I mean, good God. How many parties did we have for the uniforms? The leak before the leak. Like, I wasn't even going to talk about it. And then all of a sudden, like, people are bragging about seeing it. And then it's like, well, we didn't really see a lot. Yeah, McLean. By the way, I ate with McLean Tuesday, and I'm eating with him next week. I'm introducing him because he loves enchiladas. He introduced me to some damn good migas. He was right about this. Like kind of a diner, the migas off the chain. But he said that he likes like hole in the wall, like enchiladas. He hasn't been to my spot before. So B and McLean are going to go there. La Plaza, if you want the migas, and they got breakfast. The prices are insane. The enchiladas, not really for me. They look okay, but it's a breakfast spot. Migas, La Plaza, little hole in the wall. And then I'm going to take him to my spot next week. I got a feeling he's gonna fall in love with it. If he likes the enchiladas the way I like the enchiladas, he's gonna like it.
My favorite thing about an enchilada is by the time I get to the last couple of bites, I want that cheese to have I want it to basically re-solidified.
Okay, well then this is the best enchiladas in town.
I want pulls at the beginning, and then by the time I get to the enchilada, I want a re-solidified like cheese block in the middle.
No, these are the best enchiladas in town. They're the best. If you just want enchiladas, they're good. I tried the enchilada stack yesterday, which was really good. She has like a homemade like casserole enchilada stack that she makes, but it's shredded chicken, sour cream, guacamole. It's basically like a big ass sour cream chicken enchilada, and they put lettuce on top of it with the rice and beans just kind of melted in. Pretty good, but it's hard to top the enchiladas. Can't beat it.
Just a good old fashioned
El Gallo.
Good enchiladas. Tough.
El Gallo on Gessner. Family atmosphere, the best enchiladas in the game. No doubt.
And there's not another dish that satisfies what you get out of an enchilada. I went to a Mexican food joint the other day with a buddy. They didn't have enchiladas, and I was really looking forward to enchiladas. I was like, what are we doing here?
No, and I think a lot of places have their role. Like people will crap on El Tiempo, like the hipster Hispanic folk, and be like, "Well, look, fajitas and margaritas, we're good. Like that's the role. Like in that and out of towners, fajitas and enchiladas. If I send you to El Tiempo and you get pissed at me because you ordered enchiladas or something, that's on you. That's a you thing. But if you got the half and half margaritas, you have to go half rocks, half frozen, because the frozen replaces the ice and they go down a little bit quicker, a little bit smoother, minimize brain freeze. And then you go with the fajitas, you're good. This place, you don't get fajitas, you get the enchiladas. El Gallo, best in town. So there you go.
Have you seen, I got to send you the videos. I don't think you've seen them. Have you seen the mom and son that they do called sketchy food reviews? Have you seen them?
No, I haven't, Cody.
Oh man. They go and they're in Dallas. You might even know some of these places. They go to those like places that look super sketchy and get a bunch of food, and then they review it in the car, and it's hilarious. I'll send you.
Toke with me says Landry looks like a half and half margarita kind of guy. LMAO. So
it's great.
Smart. I'm smart. Yeah, thanks.
It's great.
That's smart. Nobody. That's not like a common thing. Do you ever get a margarita on the rocks and they put too much ice in it all the way to the top? Yeah, me too. Do you ever get a frozen margarita and sometimes it's a little bit too much brain freeze for you? Yeah, me too. This eliminates the possibility of wasting the alcohol, and the frozen takes on the ice thing. So thank you very much. So I look smart. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, if I would have said like I got a White Claw or something like that, and you're like, oh, he looks like a White Claw guy, that would make sense. Will Kunkel, big White Claw guy, looks like a White Claw guy. The half and half margarita is just being smart. So that's saying that I look smart. Thank you.
The start of that soliloquy was like is like the beginning to an infomercial.
It's
do you ever get a brain freeze when you drink frozen margaritas, and then it cuts to some guy in black and white going, ah.
You just if you want the half and half margarita, you just say, I want half rocks, half frozen. They say, oh, okay. And then instead of pouring all that damn ice to the tippity top, they basically they have to make the margarita, and then the ice is the frozen. So they get that out of the machine and they put the margarita there. They're way stronger. It's way more efficient. It tastes better. The balance as far as temperature is ideal. There's nobody who has ever knocked the frozen the half and half. There's nothing. This is like the perfect thing. If you go to the Astros game and you're paying how much ever for a margarita and you get a rocks margarita, dude, you're basically getting a shot of margarita. Tell them half and half. I'm telling you.
No,
you're welcome.
This is Landry's got a lot of underwhelming food hacks. This is his best food hack.
You can't mess with it. It's the way that you do it. Half and half. Half rocks, half frozen. Boom. System has been overcome. Yep. The system has been overcome. There's nothing worse than when they you get a drink and it's just ice to the top. Why do I need that? When are you ever doing that?
After you try it, Jay Fans, report back. Let us know.
It's undefeated. There's no like middle ground for it. It's makes sense from an economic standpoint, a climate standpoint, a have fun standpoint, everything.
And you know what? You mentioned this. A lot of times bartenders don't give a damn, so they'll put the frozen in there, and it's not like they're cheating you on the booze. They give you the regular serving of booze right on top of it. Bing, bing, boom. There you go.
Bada bing, bada boom. You're good. Frozen margarita. Good day to have one. It is Friday. Shout out to everyone who's been rolling with this post draft. So it's been exactly a week since the Texans have made their first draft pick. And now next week we'll get a look at those draft picks. We'll hear from D'Amico and we'll hear what they have to say. Perhaps
it's got to be a pretty wild 2 weeks to you find out this is where you're working, move your whole life down there, and then you're on the field in the uniform, in less than 2 weeks. You got to figure out where to live in the city, how to get around the building, all that kind of stuff.
Well, the Iowa State guys can ask Hutchinson, and then they can kind of lean on each other.
That's true.
Same with the USC guys. The USC guys can ask Bullock, and they can kind of lean on him.
It wouldn't shock me if Jalen Smith and Bullock ended up
rooming together.
Yeah, getting apartments next to each other or whatever.
That wouldn't shock me. They'll just be like friends walking into each other's apartments.
Yeah.
I could easily see that.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Big week next week. Big week this week. No slow time around here. And whether you like it on the rocks or frozen, or you like to be smart and order half and half when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.